we begin, we must ask, what is an activation? According to the official rules, there are two possible states for the game, open and closed. Most of the time, the game's state is open, that is to say that gameplay proceeds as normal, and the turn player has the opportunity to go about their turn. When the game state is closed, then only spell speed 2 and greater effects can be activated. This is the point in the game where chain building occurs. It's going to get a bit complicated, and I'm going to have to give you a full explanation before I break it down, so just bear with me. Activating an effect is when you declare that you are using a card. Generally flip over a card, play a card from your hand, or say that you are using a monster effect. As soon as you do so, the game state closes and your opponent has an opportunity to respond with spell speed 2 or greater effects, called fast effects or quick effects. Essentially, this means that spell speed 1 effects, such as a normal spell card, cannot be active in response to the activation of a normal spell. Certain exceptions exist. Just for now, know that you cannot use a normal spell in response to a normal spell. After every action, your opponent has the opportunity to respond. If they choose not to respond, it passes to you, and you can activate something in response to yourself. Activating something in response is called starting a chain, and you can only activate effects of equal or greater speed in response. For example, I activate a normal spell, and my opponent activates a spell speed 3 counter trap. I then cannot use a spell speed 2 quick play in response, or a trap card in the same chain. The first card activated is designated as Chain Link 1. As soon as it has been activated, the game state closes and only fast effects can be activated. The opponent of the person to activate the first effect then has the opportunity to respond. Their activated response is Chain Link 2, and so on, until both players no longer wish to activate effects. Chain resolution then occurs. There are 3 important things to understand. Cards remain face up on the field until the chain is finished resolving. You cannot activate things in response to a resolving chain, and normal spells don't affect themselves with their own effects. For example, you cannot use a card called Giant Trunade, a normal spell card that returns all spells and trap cards on the field to the hand, to return itself to the hand. Chains resolve in opposite order from activation. For example, we have a chain with 3 links. We begin by resolving Chain Link 3 first, because it was the last card activated, then Chain Link 2, and so on until all cards have resolved their effects. What happens when your monsters have effects that resolve in the graveyard, but they were all destroyed at the same time? Their effects are all spell speed 1. Do you still get all of their effects? The answer is yes, as long as the spell speed 2 effect isn't also triggered, because then you miss timing. First, let me explain to you how to tell apart spell speed 1 and spell speed 2 monster effects. Spell speed 1 effects use the word when. This means that they must activate when they meet their conditions, and if another thing happens before then, it can no longer resolve and is set to miss timing. If multiple when effects all meet their conditions simultaneously, say for example when all your monsters were destroyed at the same time, then their effects all trigger at the same time and start a chain. You do get to use all their effects simply by designating which one is Chain Link 1, Chain Link 2, and so on before resolving them. How do I know if my effect cannot miss timing? Instead of using the word when, the text will use the word if. If effects trigger and will not miss timing. However, they will cause when effects to not resolve if both an if and a when effect were to attempt to activate at the same time. There are 2 types of effects that activate in this manner. There are trigger and ignition effects. A trigger effect will have text that has a condition followed by a colon. For example, the text, during the standby phase, you can, or if this card is destroyed in battle, you can, indicates that the effect is a trigger effect. Optional effects will say you can, or you can, in our ignition effects rather than trigger effects. Spell speed 2 effects will say during either player's turn. There is much more I want to tell you and that I haven't covered, but it will have to wait until next week's episode.
Become a patron and support us today. If you like what you saw, like and subscribe below. Follow us on social media. Thank you. Okay, I'm done. That's all my excitement.
Okay.
That's all I had. Wait, MySpace still exists?
Copyright Yugioh Senpies, all rights reserved. Contact us for sponsorship and advertisement opportunities.